Hello everyone, my name is Havian and today I'm going to be sharing my first impressions of Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, a free-to-play open-world online action RPG that I had a chance to try during a recent closed beta test. Instead of it being a completely new standalone game in the Phantasy Star series, New Genesis is a sequel to PSO2 and is directly connected to the game in a way that is rarely seen. In New Genesis, you'll be able to freely move the same character back and forth between the original PSO2 and New Genesis. You can choose to only play New Genesis, but if you already have characters in PSO2, you can log into New Genesis and continue playing with those characters. Certain social systems and cosmetic options for characters will be shared between both games, but character progression won't be shared, since the gameplay systems and content between both games is totally different. There were 6 classes that were available for me to try: Hunter, Fighter, Ranger, Gunner, Force, and Tector, and you could freely switch between all the classes on a single character. Hunters are a defensive melee-focused class that can nullify all damage by perfectly blocking attacks. They have abilities that can reduce the damage they receive, and they can also charge their attacks to increase their damage and unleash powerful counterattacks on enemies. In the beta, their weapon of choice was the sword. Fighters are an offensive melee-focused class that attack at high speeds. They can chain special attacks together to create powerful combos, and they can use abilities that sacrifice their own defense in order to increase their own attack power. In the beta, their weapon of choice were Knuckles. Rangers are a long-range focused class that deal damage from a distance. They can lead a group by creating weak points on enemies that increase the damage that location takes, so other people that are fighting alongside them will know exactly where to focus their attacks. In the beta, their weapon of choice was the assault rifle. Gunners are a highly mobile range class that excel at fighting in mid-air. They can activate an attack multiplier that will increase each time they hit an enemy, and then once the multiplier is high enough, they can unleash a chain finisher that deals additional damage and provides other enhancements based on the length of the chain. In the beta, their weapon of choice were twin machine guns. Force is a long-range magic-focused class that can exploit the elemental weaknesses of enemies and provide basic support to allies. Continuously using their techniques can inflict status effects on enemies that can create openings for other people to attack. In the beta, their weapon of choice was the rod. Tectors are a close-range magic-focused class that can support the party with attack and defense boosting buffs and area of effect healing. They can create elemental explosions with their melee attacks and can quickly change the elements of these explosions to exploit the elemental weaknesses of enemies. In the beta, their weapon of choice was the wand. Selecting a main class will let you use all of the abilities and weapons from that particular class, but you could also select a subclass that will give you access to weapons and some skills from a second class. This, along with the many customization options like slotting special stat boosting enhancements into equipment, selecting which weapon-specific attacks and finishes to use, and a system that lets you merge 2 different weapon types together so you can make combos using attacks from different weapons, leads to a lot of flexibility when creating your own playstyle. This beta was only available on PC, but once New Genesis releases, it will be available on all the platforms that PSO2 is currently available on, which for the West is Xbox, Windows Store, Epic Store, and Steam. And if you currently play the Japanese version, it will be available on PlayStation 4, PC, and on the Nintendo Switch via the cloud version. It's fairly easy to gain access to PSO2 if you want to play it, but there are a lot of other interesting MMOs that are blocked depending on the region you live in. But with NordVPN, who have sponsored today's video, you can encrypt your traffic and data to keep yourself safe and hidden while browsing online, and easily gain access to games, websites, and anime on services that are usually blocked in your region. So if there's a beta or a game that you want to play that restricts access based on your region, you can choose from 59 countries and switch your region using NordVPN, so you can sign up and play as if you are someone within the game's country of origin. Thankfully, NordVPN have provided us with a special deal that will get you 2 years plus 1 extra month of NordVPN at a huge discount. So if you're interested in what NordVPN has to offer, head over to nordvpn.com/Havian or use coupon code Havian to get NordVPN today. When first starting the game, I had to create a character. By default, there may not be as many sliders or ways to freely fine-tune your face and body like a lot of other MMOs out there, but there's definitely still enough options to give you enough freedom to make the character that you want. Over time, more customization options will be added through events and a gacha system that will let you obtain new clothing, emotes, animation, hair, accessories, and new facial customization options. But even if you don't use the gacha yourself, it will be possible to buy these cosmetic options from other players with in-game currency through the player shops in the game. The main story was unavailable in the beta and was instead replaced with a few basic tutorial missions that were there to guide you through the world and teach you how to play. Only the areas surrounding the main player hub were available and the class levels were capped at 15. But there was still enough content available to give me a general idea of how New Genesis plays and what I can expect to do once the game releases. Central City was the main hub of the beta. In this area you could obtain tasks from NPCs, which are pretty much this game's version of quests. You could change your class and customize their skill trees. You could upgrade your equipment, buy and sell items, eat stat boosting food, and meet up with other players. After leaving the city, I was free to explore the world. Regions within the world are broken up into smaller sectors that have different focuses. Some sectors will have more of a focus on gathering materials and ingredients. In these areas, you can still fight enemies, but for the most part, you'll be mining materials that can be used to upgrade your equipment, or gathering cooking ingredients from trees or from the animals that can be hunted while exploring. Other sectors will have more of a focus on fighting. Special trial markers will appear, indicating where a battle objective is. These objectives can be things like defending a location from waves of enemies, destroying airships that are come to attack, or taking down powerful bosses. Moving between the different areas is seamless with no loading in between, and traveling is quick and easy since you can sprint to increase your speed, your characters can leap to reach higher locations, and you can glide to travel in mid-air. Unlike a lot of other open world games, these movement systems are not tied to stamina, so you can freely sprint and glide as much as you want to. You can also use fast travel to teleport to locations you've previously discovered while exploring the world. The amount of players you can find within an area will change depending on where you are within the world. Some sectors will have content aimed at 8 players, but the largest sectors I had access to could have up to 32 players fighting enemies and bosses together. This worked great when playing in solo, but it was a bit of a hassle when going into new areas with a pre-made party, since there was a chance that party members could be split between the different instances within the same sector when entering at different times. But thankfully, it's already been announced that there will be ways to gather party members together easily at release. There were also dungeons that could be found within the world called cocoons and towers. In the beta, these areas were aimed at smaller parties or solo play, and they had a clear completion objective along with additional bonus objectives that increased the challenge. Some of these areas were battle focused, and others tested your speed and platforming capabilities. Successfully completing them resulted in a first-time completion reward of skill points that could be spent on any of the classes. Unfortunately, outside of gaining skill points, it didn't seem like these areas had much of a purpose. So I'm hoping that in the full game, there will be a wider range of them that will offer rewards that make them worth revisiting. During the beta, outside of leveling your classes and killing enemies, there wasn't too much that you could do. But there were 2 particular activities that gave players a reason to gear up and make their characters stronger. The first of those were urgent quests. Urgent quests are special missions that can appear at certain locations within the world. In order to take part in them, you'll need to reach the specified battle power, which is a score that is given to you based on the strength of your character and equipment. For the urgent quest that was available in the beta, players were given a 15-minute warning before the quest began, and once the countdown ended, anyone that accepted the quest was transported to an 8-player battle area to take down a huge boss. The urgent quest boss for this beta was a giant enemy that could switch between a gun and sword when attacking. There were multiple sections of its body that we could attack, and it was possible to knock the boss down to the ground, which made it easier to reach its weak points. It was also possible to put the boss into a break state by attacking it until the blue bar under its health was depleted. Once the boss was broken, you were able to deal increased damage to it until it recovered. This boss also had multiple phases, so the lower its health got, the more aggressive its attacks became. The other activity that was available wasn't something that the game guided you towards, but was more of a challenge that players came together to overcome. During specific weather conditions, a special powerful boss would appear that was a higher level than the players could be in the beta. If anyone under level 15 tried to attack this boss, the damage from their attacks was severely reduced. The challenge was to beat this boss before it vanished due to the weather conditions returning to normal. So in order to beat this boss, I joined a team of 32 players, mostly made up of people who reached a level cap during the beta. We fought enemies in the area until the boss appeared during a thunderstorm, and tried our best to take it down as fast as possible, even with it being strong enough to kill everyone in one hit. It was fun teaming up with people to take down powerful enemies, so I'm hoping that there are more challenges in the full game that require preparation and teamwork in order to overcome them. But despite how much fun I had while playing the beta, it wasn't perfect, and there were times where I ran into a lot of performance issues while using a PC with a good spec. The respawn rates of mining nodes for upgrade materials felt too long, and I was unable to find any way to directly trade equipment to other players outside of just putting it in my personal shop and selling it. But despite that, I still think that New Genesis feels like a completely new and promising direction for the series. The foundation they've made is solid, so if they build upon it with good content, then they could have something very special here. If you played Phantasy Star games in the past, things in New Genesis will feel familiar, but the overall experience is different enough that it still feels like a fresh start. So I think New Genesis will be a good place to jump in if you're playing Phantasy Star for the first time, or if you've previously played games in this series and you're looking for something new. Thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video and providing us with a special deal which will let you get 2 years plus 1 extra month of NordVPN at a huge discount. So if you're interested in what NordVPN has to offer, head over to nordvpn.com/Havian or use coupon code Havian to get NordVPN today. I post smaller gameplay clips and news updates over on Twitter between the videos that I make. So if you want to stay up to date with everything I'm doing, I'll put the links to Twitter and a few other places you can find me in the description. And if you want to see any of the other gameplay videos that I make for New Genesis and other action RPGs, then don't forget to subscribe and remember to click the bell so you'll be the first to know when a new video is available. I'll be making a new video very soon, but until I make that video, I'll see you all later.